Good day to you all, welcome back. This is day 17 of the countdown to the Spectrum. This is The Way of the Exploding Fist, a classic, I think you'll agree. Released in 1985 by Melbourne House. It's the second Melbourne House game we had after The Hobbit. Created by Greg Barnett, Greg Holland, Stephen Taylor and William Tang. And obviously the genre of this game is arcade beat 'em up, which yeah, definitely sounds about right. The game was released for £8.95 when it came out, and the platforms it was available on were Acorn, Amiga, Amstrad CPC, BBC Micro, Commodore 64 and Commodore Plus 4, which is pretty cool. It's got a lot of awards, this one, so bear with me. A lot of awards, my word. Second best game overall, 1985 Crash. Second best sports simulation, 1985 Crash. Second place in Game of the Year Awards, 1985. Doesn't say where that is. Best Spectrum game, so I don't know what magazine that was. Oh, must be the Game of the Year Awards, I beg your pardon. Second place in Game of the Year Awards 1985 Game of the Year, wow. Third best graphics in the 1985 Crash Readers Awards, and third best sound effects in Crash Readers Awards as well for 1985. Winner of the Game of the Year Awards 1985 Best Sports Game, that is crazy. Review Awards got Crash Smash in issue 21 1985, which we'll be looking at, and Sinclair User Classic in issue 43 of Sinclair User. This is a game that I played a lot with my brother, and yeah, we played the 2-player games on this one. Lots of fun, just lots of fun. Probably my first experience of ever playing a karate game. I know there were quite a few, like we had Yeah Kung Fu, and well, it's Kung Fu, obviously not karate, but you know what I mean. I'm talking about martial arts games, shall we say then, if we want to be a bit more picky. And obviously International Karate came out, and then IK Plus also came out later. There was a sequel to this, I believe, as well, but this is the one I remember playing the most. I remember the Torii Gate in the background and the temple and everything. Yeah, it's just an iconic image. Almost looked like you were fighting on a beach on the ZX Spectrum version. Anyway, as ever, we're going to look at Crash's review from October 1985. Again, I think I've done not a bad job of lining this one up. I mean, you wouldn't think that looking at the title, but anyway. I shouldn't really start every week by critiquing how I lined up the review. No, but I guess it's something I notice as soon as I put it together. I think I've got a touch of OCD. Never been officially diagnosed, but I think I have it. And sometimes when I look at things I do, I'm looking for the imperfections. It's like when I'm listening back to the recording, for some reason, there's a crackle on my recording, like a little bit of interference on my voice that I just can't get rid of. And it drives me nuts when I listen back to it, because I always, I'm my biggest critic, and I sort of listen to it and think to myself, that's awful. But it's just nothing I can do about it. It's either don't put videos out anymore, never do them, or because I can't exactly afford to spend like £300 on a new microphone. And I've got a Blue Snowball microphone, which they say is one of the best ones, so well, for the budget anyway. So, but I'm digressing massively. I am basically my biggest self-critic, and I think we're all that, aren't we? Anyway, let's read the review. Melbourne House used to be well regarded just for their adventure games, but the release of Starion changed that. Now we've come to expect good arcade games as well. Those good old cobbers from down under have caused quite a stir with their karate simulation. In The Way of the Exploding Fish, you control a single character competing in a karate match either against the computer or against anybody or anything else that can use a keyboard or joystick. I like the way they say that, anybody or anything else, like as if your dog could pick up a joystick and play it. Since karate offers such a wide variety of moves, the control system is necessarily complicated. The one-player mode allows either the keyboard or the joystick to be used, but in two-player mode, at least one player must use the keyboard. The keys are definable, but they are best set up as a square, 3 keys by 3 keys. That way, each key represents one of the 8 directions attainable on a joystick. The 9th key also provides a joystick fire option, so shifting the 8 keys allows a further 8 functions, giving the 16 options needed. They make it sound so complicated. I don't remember being that complicated when I was younger, but with the keyboard set up in a similar way to the joystick, it is best to regard each of the 8 functions as directions on a compass, e.g. pushing the joystick diagonally right is the same as using the key on the top right hand of your key square, in which case both the key and the joystick direction can be referred to as northwest or NW. My god, they're going into detail here, aren't they? Whether you use the keyboard or the joystick, as you can imagine, learning the controls will take a little time, but they have been laid out in a helpful way. For example, all of the kicks are produced when the fire is held down. North gives a flying kick, northeast a high kick, east a mid kick, EW a short jab kick, and S forward sweep, which is more of a flailing action performed with one leg from the crouch position. The backward kicks also rely on the fire button being pressed, but this time in conjunction with the northeast and northwest controls without fire. Pushing north makes your character jump. thus avoiding sweeps or low jab kicks. Northeast produces a higher punch. East moves the character forward. EW gives a punch to the belly. S is a crouch and low punch. SW a back somersault. W backwards walk and defensive block. NW makes your man perform an elegant forward somersault. My god, it's no wonder they did all the compass things. I don't understand why they had to go over all of that in this review. That's crazy. I mean, we spent about 3 paragraphs going over that stuff there. Nuts. Anyway, learning how to produce the various moves is only part of the story. Appreciating when each of the available moves is best used is just as vital. The literature enclosed with the game goes some way to pointing out the pros and cons of each of the moves, but a great deal can only be learned by experience. It's best to start by mastering some of the easier moves, which will be quite effective against low order opponents. For example, short jab kick is quick and effective at close range, as only the higher level Dans will be able to defend against it with ease. One of the better moves is the forward sweep, which can be both offensive and defensive. If the enemy is within range, it's very difficult to avoid. The misnamed roundhouse kick allows you to turn about and deliver a vicious mid-level kick, but it takes some time to perform, so you could be exposed to attack before your blow is delivered. Somersaults are useful for escaping from the reach of your opponent, but when using the backward somersault, make sure you know how to turn around, otherwise you're going to have your back to the enemy while you're fiddling with the controls. The other defensive moves also require some appreciation. There are 2 types of defensive blocks, a high and a low block. It will be as well to remember that while you may be able to fend off one aggressive move with one type of block, your opponent could change to a move which circumnavigates the block you are holding. Clearly the solution is to change blocks, but that requires absolute knowledge of the controls and the effect of various moves so you can preempt your opponent's attacks. Because there is no block against low sweeps, it's worth mastering those 2 moves at an early stage. Your sole aim when battling against the computer is to reach the exalted rank of 10th Dan. In all, there are 11 levels. Your first fight will be against the novice, a much battered individual, and you should be able to deal with him with just a little mastery of the basic moves. If you impress the judge, he's a little bald-headed bloke with a Mexican moustache. Nice description. You'll be awarded half a point in the form of a yin or yang symbol. A full point, a yin-yang, is only awarded for moves which the judge considers to have been executed very well, so a poorly executed but punishing body blow may only be awarded half a point. The symbolic points relate to your performance in any one bout. To defeat an opponent, you must win both bouts, even if only by half a point. In order to progress through the levels, you must defeat each Dan in 2 bouts, and if the computer gets the better of you in a bout, then it's back to bashing the novice. If a bout ends with a draw, then you will get the chance to fight that bout again. Points for the match as a whole are displayed at the top of the screen. These match points are awarded according to the type of move you use. For instance, a straight punch is worth less than a more difficult roundhouse kick. If a move is performed well and is rewarded with a full point, then the match point value of that move is doubled. Fighting against a computer is very good practice for combat against another person, because as you move up from one level to another, you can take comfort in the knowledge that your opponent is going to be meaner and cleverer than the last. As an added simulation to training, remember your opponent only has to win 1 bout and you go back to the start again. Competition against a fellow human can be more challenging, but this time the match is decided in favour of the contestant with the highest score after 4 bouts. If during a bout the time limit is reached and the yin-yang points are even, then the judge will order that bout to be fought again until there is a clear winner. Right, that's the end of the review. We've got a lot of criticisms on this one, so we'll skip down to the comments and plonk the gameplay footage up again. Use of colour, excellent backdrops, graphics very smooth animation, sound good bashing sounds, skill levels 11, screens 4 backdrops, general rating excellent, use to computer 87%, graphics 92%, playability 87%, getting started 80%, addictive qualities 96%, wow that's good, value for money 85%, and overall 92%, so that's very good. Let's start with the first criticism. It's here at last. It's certainly been worth the wait. This is by far and away the best sports combat simulation available yet. Complete with oriental scenic backdrops, the game flows into karate mania. With its fab, even dynamic graphics, the kicks and punches seem to have strength and purpose. I enjoyed Way of the Exploding Fist. Having mastered the simple straight kick and punch, I quickly began to delight in the more complicated moves. Back and spinning kicks integrate with the odd somersault. The wide variety of moves means that you're never limited in your means of attack and counter-attack. Addictive is the word. I'm assuming that's a different criticism because it's in a different like bolding sort of thing, so we'll move to the next one. On the spectrum, there have been few very good representations of the noble martial arts. Kung Fu by Bugbite was probably the best, but it had so few moves and was painfully slow. Melbourne House's Way of the Exploding Fist puts that to rights. It has a stunning 18 moves that can be performed with astonishing speed and accuracy, just like the real thing. It can take quite some time to get used to all the available moves, and I found the 2-player mode best for practice before tackling the computer. Once the moves have been mastered, mastered, the game starts to really open up and become fun. I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of the Spectrum version. The two central characters are perfectly animated against the scenic backdrops, which provide pleasant surroundings to have a good fight in. Sound is very limited but does enhance the game. Not quite the screams of the Commodore 64 original, but politer squeals of pain. Exploding Fist is immense fun to play and really comes into its own on a two-player game, especially when you're evenly matched. I'm not sure how long it will keep you addicted for, but it certainly kept me up late. Though the weather hasn't been very sporty, the recent releases of sports simulations have more than made up for it. I'm guessing they had a rough year. 1985 weather-wise. Actually, well, it's November 85, I think, this review, so probably would explain why. Oh, it was October 85, so probably explain why the weather was rubbish. Because, you know, back then we actually used to get snow. Didn't seem to get that much anymore. Or if you do, you kind of get it in April, don't you? Which is a bit weird. But okay, final criticism. Exploding Fist, now it has finally appeared on the Spectrum, is the best game in the genre to appear yet. Though not as colourful as its Commodore and Amstrad cousins, the speed and gameplay is nearly identical. In fact, the monochromatic figures are just as effective on their own way as the Commodore's blocky sprites. Differences that I noticed included the computer opponents' increased viciousness, which makes the game a lot more challenging and playable. Getting the fight actions you need can be a bit of a fumble at first, but after a bit of practice things get a lot clearer. Sound effects though, sparse, are effective. There's a nice thud when a fighter hits the floor and a nasty crack noise when someone gets hit. I particularly enjoyed the two-player option, which has to make Way of the Exploding Fist one of the best two-player games around. It's definitely the best beat 'em up yet on the Spectrum, and is good value for money. So there we have the review. I really enjoyed this game. Like I said, I enjoyed playing with my brother. This is one of those rare games, I think. I had this first, once again, on the Commodore 64, but I did actually have it on the Spectrum as well. So that's pretty testament, I guess, to how much we used to enjoy this game. Because as I've explained in previous videos, there were a lot of games at that time that if I got on the 64, I didn't really feel like I needed to get on the Spectrum, but this one we did get because we enjoyed playing it a lot. And like I said, with my family dynamic, we didn't have access to the Commodore 64 all the time, but we did when we got our Spectrum. We had access to that all the time because it was at my mum's house with us. You know, we basically lived with the Spectrum. We only got to see the Commodore 64 every 2 weeks at my dad's, so it was kind of like if there was a game you really enjoyed on the Commodore 64, we'd find a way to get it, you know, and this was one of the ones we did. So that should really tell you all you need to know. Okay, everybody, that is the end of day 17. So we've literally just got 5 more games on this list now, and then we'll have our Spectrums. Obviously the last game's going to come out on the day of release of the Spectrum. I might actually schedule that to release a little bit earlier because I've had every video release at 10 AM, but I might consider bringing that one like forward to about 8:30, something like that, 8 AM, just because some people might, if they're doing what I'm doing and traveling to pick up their Spectrums and they're going at the crack of dawn like I am as well, it might be nice if you're getting on a bus or a train or something, you could sit there and watch the video while you're traveling. I think of these things because I have to travel on a bus, you know, so I know most of you are probably driving, but there's no reason why I can't bring it out a couple of hours earlier, and I might do that for release day just so that people can have that video if they want some company on their journey. It might complete the hype, you know, as it's the last game as well. Okay, everybody, as ever, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow for another one. There you go, everybody. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.